because our and the of Timothy, share that with anything else.
Organizing is a writer and teacher living in Little Rock, Arkansas. She's written numerous Christian publications, including Gospel Coalition, Christianity Today. She's also author of Prayer, which is part of Crossway's Systems Devotion series, published in partnership with DTC. Organization is joined today on Crossway podcast. So you start this book with a question. You say prayer is hard for me. Why start there?
Well, prayer is very hard for me. So I have felt prayer most of my adult life, and I was in college, and I often hear people talk about their prayer life that they would pray for a long period of time, or it was just an impulse to pray. And I often thought people have to pray this, and the prayer is time. And I know I'm supposed to pray, and I was called to pray, but I was called to pray. I was lazy or reading Bible or whatever. And I have struggled with disciplinary prayer. I struggled with organized prayer. What should I pray for? How should I pray? And I struggled with finding prayer for useful in my life. And so when the topic of writing came up, I was talking with a friend, and I was saying she's trying to do things like this. And I said, oh well, I should never run on prayer because that's hard for me. She said, no, actually, you should run on prayer because it is hard for you. And I imagine if you have that experience, other people have that experience as well. But yeah, it's not a simple to stop prayer right now. That's not my
Yeah, prayer is it's hard for you, and you realize that natural. But I think that many of us, most of us would be able to so we got the basics of other
yeah, I think prayer is it's something that it's something that you can't see. You know you should be praying for the Lord, but you can't see him. And a conversation with somebody you can't see feels very listen and you can't change. Reading the Bible doesn't mean you have to listen to you listen to prayer is something that requires more faith, it's hard for us, it requires more lack of control because it's something really Christians, it's something that we struggle with lack of control brings in our life. And I think Christians are very self-sufficient. And prayer is an acknowledgement of our lack of control and our lack of sufficiency. And when we could just easily go do it and pray about it, I think that's just it doesn't itself mean Christian as much.
And I think last time do something about that connects you some of the default way of thinking about prayer that you have no but one of the specific emotions that you have in the book and I think we all felt times sometimes are dissatisfaction with prayer is based on shame about just not being where you should be for a long time and just like prayer is not it's just constantly failing that. Not shame how some people think about that. So just add that piece that how do you fight against that when you see
I think that's when you think of prayer, prayer called the spiritual disciplines. And I think when you think about discipline applies something that is not easy to come by. So the discipline of running is like literally after you run. I like to run, I don't want to run. Like I like feeling after I run. Sometimes I like running, but most of the time that once you push through the discipline becomes easier to do. Because at first struggle with me, I think we wrongly assume that being a Christian, we should always do things for us and we should always feel good about things for us. And that's just not the Christian life. Like we are many factors that lead to why we don't, right? So it could be tiredness, so it could be using life, so it could be overwhelmed, so it could be extra factors that are control, and so it could be sin. And so when we acknowledge that the requirements of something going to be hard, that makes it, that can take shame from it. I don't want to eat vegetables. I actually hate vegetables. I don't eat fried food all day long. But the discipline of vegetables is not easy in the beginning, but it leads to the feeling like vegetables and vegetables. And so I think we associate shame with things that also good. And it's not good. And it doesn't mean the end result doesn't lead to good. It doesn't lead to joy. It just no matter how you immediate.
Yeah, we want fast results. And we also think we're so ready. We come out of expectation. It should feel easy. It should always just feel immediately beneficial. And it doesn't. It always starts off to just do it.
Right. And it's interesting. I relate more to prayer because the understanding very hard for me. So like something that is spiritual, that's hard for me is reading the Bible. And so that's an easy impulse, that's an easy thing. I do it. And for me, that's easier. But prayer, I'm still very distracted all the time. I'm just very distracted by it. And even with the tools I've been like, I'm very distracted. I'm feeling awesome.
Yeah.
But to recognize that most things of value and most things that we do in our life come at it with great exertion hard things. And I think sometimes our relationship feel easy and cozy and which is wonderful. Yeah. And fear, especially fear is very spiritual. It feels like a competition and it's not as natural. It's something that maybe competition is natural. I have to work at it. Or competition is natural. I have to work at it. That's the reality of something I think in the world is that in the garden of Eve, talking to God with no broken relationship with easy and now we live those fall. We have the Holy Spirit and it's constant fellowship with Father. But at the same time, we also actually never we're not always feel the fellowship that comes to feel the fellowship that tension, feel fellowship and not fully and so I think that understanding where we live and already having part of our Christian walk helps us deal with my very walls.
Yeah, and second, one of the current themes is what just emphasizing that prayer isn't primarily about results, how you might find those. There's some ultimately walking God, you just feel that prayer. It's really about relationship cultivate. And again, the gospel cliche is our relationship with is. But why is that important to us?
So we're always in the God created us and created enemy to be in touch with him. And so the impulse of wanting to feel the Lord presence is the right impulse because it's going back to what we're created for. And I think sometimes we struggle because we want to feel that all the time, but we're not fully there. So we follow the trace from the very beginning to the end, getting back to God's goal. But it's not fully there until we have the Word of God dwells on us and it's forever. And so we see evidence of our church and temple and tabernacle and then we see all these pieces are reminding us by the us. And prayer is the way we are in communion with God who dwells us. If you're praying about something, you're praying about this.
There's passages we think that you can ask you see where you ask my name. Yeah, so how do you what do you think about that?
I think so there's certain things I don't fully know. Like I think there's attention, but I'm not fully I don't have their attention. I can fully understand why those passages say you don't ask, you don't ask. I'm not looking for good things. Like I'm saying remember to take Christ and God prayer. But what I do know is that God is trying to be. That's the thing most is that my prayer for something does not mean God won't answer in the way I want him to. I just can't see it in this section. And that's what I is that the argument is very small on the grand scheme of what I'm doing. And I am asking for things in faith, trusting God will he might not. He might think the answer might be no. And that's because I didn't ask for things. And I don't know what to ask for. I don't know what things I need most, what other people need most. But I think the relationship with God is that we are constantly remembering their need beforehand, asking for him to change our asking for him to crying out to him about their pain. And he may answer. And then after he time, wait, our time is I have to say I expect tomorrow. And God, the days like 1,000 years, I decide that person that he's not being time with
Yeah, I think that's not him. I think your relationship with him, not his relationship, but his relationship with the sovereign God, the universe. So it just makes sense that he's going to understand things no, we don't, and he's going to do us things in ways that we don't expect him to. So we don't know. Yeah, there's that very big difference between understanding our limits.
Right, and if you think this way, father advice for pulling advice to the parent. I'm a parent, I forget for a lot of things. I might ask for things I don't know a lot. And all parents understand that. And I think like children don't understand all the things that could happen if they ask for.
Yeah, everything like no promise.
They don't understand that. And the same way we are children, we don't understand what things are asking for. And we have a hard time to adults. And so we think we're there. We're talking about that. Let's know what it is. Right, no, it's not fully there yet. I know more in my 40s than I know in my 30s. I'm going to know more in my 50s. I really think that we're going to be, oh my gosh, anything. And I'm like, that's 40 year old birthday. I'm 50s. And so I think that we just we're always growing and changing. And God is not changing. And because he's not changing, his answers to us might confuse us. That's why the relationship with our Father is trusting good and trusting he's working all things for our good. And his answers to us are confusing, interpreting sometimes. But he knows what to know. I say this sometimes in prayers, like, or videos prayers. It's really hard to reconcile. Like the worst imaginable, like when love, dying in your sin, not giving Christ. That seems like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And so I know what happens. And so those are hard things to remember. And but at the end of the day, he's been faithful and sovereign God. And we have to trust him. Even if you don't understand.
So we talk a lot about plenty of prayers. We are going to God asking him, and doesn't necessarily expect. But there's the other need that we have in prayer, struggle we have in prayer, is when we just don't feel need, desire to talk to him, asking things. And you talk constantly about just how this culture and living culture self-sufficiency, culture distraction, all around us, and build our sense of need for God. And how do you think about our phones and the technology we have? In particular, how has that impacted our lives?
Well, we can Google it. And the way I was also now. So I can't tell you how many times, like my kids say, or something wrong with my head where I am stressed about everything, and my default is to go on the internet and find comfort with the internet.
Some forum somewhere.
Yes, like I don't understand if I just him, I just love it. I'm sorry, all the time I'm excited about everything. Oh, it keeps talking about it. Oh, it needs all because everything about prayer. And the first time I was thinking about that him is not talking about it. And you can imagine forward that work way easy. I'm not just that I was going to do it because of it, and I just really choose to do it. I was stressed about it, and I spent so much time anxious. And when you have more strategy behind like how we forgot about it. And I remember thinking like you forgot about it. It's for crazy. Every children find my parents all the things I think about. My default is to do it. I think we have answers for the many things for whether it's weather or the alienness or strategy behind or conflict or everyone's bringing information at us.
They've never had better access to
yes,
information.
and we're anxious. And we're very more stressed. We're very more divided. And we're all things going on right now because we have information like this instead of saying phone out and writing.
And we don't actually need more information. We need something else.
Right, and my voice is very low. And so there's something and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. Walking really hard. It's just not that I'm not and I'm trusting that my parents that no matter where I'm happen. And I use frustrated and asking real and so that I'm very stressed and all the time. Thinking and the time is all you have access.
And those are you.
Yeah, that's weird. So yeah, that's
they have a false idea that only I only have a little bit of insight, and then we'll think that'll be okay. But that's not. That's just not the way it actually is.
Yes, yeah.
So people talk a lot about the word prayer and serve as a scaffold for our prayer. So that's another thing. All right, when we pray, let's start pray. Now, how do I actually say? And so how does the word prayer serve as a scaffold?
Well, the other thing is that in that passage, that was say we're just right, which comforts me because that means people have been wanting to have it for a really long time. And so Bubble Blossom really shows the art that's they're great. And it's kind of we also use it. But the cool about her is that it's very religious and it runs this Frank scripture which goes to the kinds of prayers. And that's how prayers are informed by God's word, which is very reliable, what he wants to us. And so when you think about Frank will, writing his word is his will. So the Holy Spirit is not everything you can pray, but it does provide these anchors that our Father in heaven, so acknowledge in our community, the very outset, all your name, one God's name, the right prayers, to no matter the outcome, we want God to be exalted. And then pray for the party needs to meet. So we believe in the more research on it, but we want to know but you're also God, or what if you're making out like you also have to whatever things, pray for your daily needs, pray for your kingdom, pray for forgiveness, pray for confession. It provides us with a framework of thinking. The example word provides the example for you. Eventually you learn the example. Now, I actually think education is example you want to learn it, but I think there's like I think we are in example saying you're teaching people to launch. In Christian life, we're all children. And we're always example to help us become example is the word in heaven. And we example is right here with us always. And you're completely new. Example is the word.
We all run on the word.
Right. And I think when you use the word example, you can think, oh, it's example because you're example. And I think that's kind of time. In this argument, I see that we're going to example about because we're always going to have a and being able to fully engage in terms of what he wants for us until we're advised.
I'm sure there are crossing actions of all words that which is just again this simple idea that almost too simple. But really just trying to worship both words all songs, all Bible stories, praise back it's just
yeah, so my first person engineering. Is that right? This is me. I'm not teaching anybody, but I heavily into it. And I remember hearing in the past, we played this song every day class. And the way if you were the last person in class, that day you had to say songs today, which is like the first 3 months, 1 to 31 and that. But so I'm not very math. But I remember you have to say songs today. I always I don't want to anything. But I do my class. I never want to math for everyone.
And after the first few songs, then you go on 31 to 31.
Yeah. So if you have 4 5 minutes. So if you have to do all the course in class, and I did not start doing that in my own life until within the last 5 years. I often do it. So I had another one times. Both of us use this model in our lives. But the only reason I really think into it is I need to better structure my life and after using that model. I make songs. I do songs. I do whatever. Where I song this one, and I pray a song.
Yeah. It's so pretty. So pretty. We're showing yeah. So you can speak a little bit. All the different habits, different things that work for us. I think one of the things that again, there's a lot of flexibility in how we structure our service and prayer. So with you have you journal on time prayers, you have book prayers, and how you structure that time for yourself.
First, I know it comes from Frank that I heard podcast reading a lot of guys saying I'm right. When I first meet, she started doing that. She started me, and she has started doing this. I started 5 minutes every day. So after 5 years, and I'm 9 minutes. So I started 5 minutes a day. So I break it down based on days a week.
Why is that helpful?
Well, it gives me like a and for me, it's just like I know that I'm devoting time to it, and it helps me. I don't like it just does.
That's not like focus, not just you know.
And it's like science, like I word, and I'm saying it does equal focusing. No, it goes in point my daily notes and when I focus on work. So I do that, and I do write down my daily because I have things I'm for, before, and I just find it. And my prayers, I don't know my prayers, but what I do is journal my daily concern. And so I'm breaking down my month, I'm going to again, and I'm going to reflect on what the Lord's done on, and being able to see how these prayers. I do, yeah, I hope each year. So it's helped me. It's pretty tremendous to be able to focus in on what I'm praying for, and I'm not just so I pray songs, which doesn't say, but I'm really saying something. But I also have people I pray for each day that I know I break down my like I just break down how to explain, so I don't know where that's like of how we kind of know what to do. And it's really organized and thinking through what I'm praying for. I feel awesome. Like I'm like okay, I didn't. One thing I haven't also longer than this, and I'm often. And I think for me, I use it as a
okay.
Or I have to protect like I'm doing stuff.
You're doing something like yeah. How do you know? That's not work. I know yeah, honestly, but I mean, younger interns and one sometimes you already have.
I think it depends on my kids are in school, so they're not babies. So I don't know what No, I think by and large, most of us would say that around how to do 5 minutes. So we make 5 minutes. So it's 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah, bring 5 minutes. And I think we probably are showing more than that. We probably are. And it is different purposes. All different purposes. They know something else. Yes. And I probably for someone who I think look at your you're saying your time. And God wants to communicate with you. He wants to be in relationship with you. And are you choosing relationship with anything else over the relationship that matters most? And so I think probably there's 5 minutes that we clear. I don't like I spend professional. And so finding girlfriend whether it's nap time or it's night time or like I've learned different strategies. Like oh, it's very seasonal and now it's time. So I'm work. I was about morning ready to doing my hair. And I just think there's different. I have to learn creative and recognize that. And the same way that I have to be creative with making friendships in my work. I have to be creative with how I approach work. It's not going to be a couple of couch and really. It's not like I'm good.
It's not right. If you have certain expectations of what needs to look like, it doesn't work that way again for whatever reason. Be extra, you use the desire type.
Yeah, you have to get outlooks. If you're and if you have a Timothy, figure that out anything else.
Yeah. Think a little bit more careful about what's going on and what needs Christians. The link that is So right, without prayer for life Christians. For more prayer, which part of the focus series, publish structure, easy. Pick up your personal, or for now, or by the professional class. I'd like to prepare another presentation about your join your household tax model prayer, limited ways. Listen to the first episode where you guys. We're running this subscribe to podcast, Spotify, or your good ways to share your friend, leading us to probably not publishing your solely purpose of playing your power, outside content. Visit the power. We all have questions. Questions about the Bible, questions about church, questions about sin, and questions about our suffering. But sometimes those questions can be so big, so substantial, so disconcerting. I start to wonder, do I really believe what I say I do? Like I said today, he spent years listening to stories of Christians who struggle with various questions about faith. But rather than these questions as roadblocks to faith, Randy comes to them as natural twists and turns that help me in our lives Christians. Twists and turns that lead us to deeper trust and confidence in God. Randy and serves as the developer of other examples as he has listened to. These authors of books lead to us our way, questioning faith, in return to belief and praise God. Let's start. Well, Randy, so today on podcast, great to thanks so much. So Christians, think all the way they struggle with doubt in their lives. Lots of different things. Really all things. It's really hard to know how to talk about that with our leaders. So when we start off today, answering questions, you sit down with the Christian background, we have hot shots talking and that was where we get struggling with doubt. That's here. What's the first thing that you say? Well, I think the first thing I might say is that I also want to know that I love and I feel that Jesus is and I think doubt may be more common than people think. So I want to soften the tension. I think also I'm trying to express that even really strong, solid, mature leaders have times of doubt. And I think that there's an image of the mature Christian who he or she is that they don't have doubts. And I don't think that that's realistic for most people. I can't have no excited about doubts. I doubt that they don't have all their struggles. But that's not the point. I think the teaching of the New Testament has isolated that like there will be times of doubt and struggle and frustration. And so it's not a question of who probably didn't hang out, what are you into it, work through it, and live with it, rather than watch it. So that's the starting point. Yeah, I'm really about the book. This is the way that you approach these parties, journeys. Where you want to learn things like that, really multifaceted. It's always a simple answer that before was about using the book. I don't see as spiritual journeys, twists and turns, or the second one. My stories of faith. Don't use something as your life story. The more my twists and turns, but first, I heard a lot of stories of people's life, and for a while, a lot of them fit in a very short, linear fashion. When I was like this, then I learned this, then I found this, then I did this. Straight line. First of all, yes, there's a Jewish background, and the base of the Jewish background, feeling Jewish. So I don't know how Jesus attached to those people who are already there, academics, maybe the journey of Christian nation, they did their Holocaust. So for a long time, I had friends who say, like, no, I don't do that. And at the same time, there was this attraction, like, why do people, they seem to know God in person, like, want to know how to pray, pray English. And so they no, I'm not, both sides are wrong, back and forth everything. And I had people telling about how I know this, how I'm experience my son, and I learned what's the backstory, made it possible to get out, to go back and forth, and go to all your work, and I know what's the back. It's this back and forth, it's straight up, and straight up, and back in age, and I think that's more the image about how I need some level of sense. Like regular, and maybe I stop the rest. I know my own story is in high school, I was friends that share a whole lot with me. That got me thinking. Then I went to college, after the first year and a half, I didn't think about God or Jesus or anything. I thought about beer and music and girls. And that was, and every Saturday night I went to party, every Saturday night I went to Philadelphia music, listen to some crazy music. I was looking for something. On Friday night I was looking for escape. On Saturday I was looking for some transcendence. And both of them were tremendous. But that was my freshman year, and most of my sophomore year until a friend of mine died in this really tragic accident. And then I had to wait a minute. Music is not helping with this. Beer is going to. I got to find something deeper. And that's when I started reading C.S. Lewis and Christianity, Matthew, a lot of New Testament. But again, it was back and forth, indirect switch back kind of thing. Then I got to a point of faith that we could turn around and look at it, right? Oh, this was kind of the end, and it took 3.5 years. Yeah, do you think those are facts? I was searching for something. I was knowing what's next, and the right answer. Then after your conversion, and yeah, I'll get right. Oh, sure, yeah, I definitely think so. There are certain truths of the Christian life that the first time you hear it, well, for a lot of us, it's exactly the opposite of what you were in doctrine. So, and I think probably 100 examples. I was seeing in you that Jesus was a good teacher. That's it. And so my friends said, "God, are you kidding? No, really claiming God. Well, he's not. He looked like just God could take on flesh. That's like crazy." And so the whole idea is that the first thing, wait, a lot of people really believe this. Yeah. All right, so maybe I should be so dismissive. And some people that just takes time. For some people, it's no, God actually chose to reveal himself in the book. For a whole lot of people, that's crazy. Really, God really reveal himself. People, why that? And again, people get kind of simple. I think we as Christians think we just take the idea there. It's out there. It's true. It's sort of true. Yes, it is true. It is true. For a lot of people, it's time kind of sit with it. Because the essence of becoming a Christian is admitting that you've been wrong about a whole lot of stuff. A lot of things about God, about why I'm about sin, about Jesus, about the Bible. So realizing all these other things, remember. And then I say every time there's a whole lot more about this. You know what? It's different. Yeah, but that takes some time. It's not just let's translate information from the book in my brain. There, that's and now it's no, it's not medication. It's not medication. And you think that I can shot of theology. And that's not what I know. So one of the things that I know about how we sort of I think about the whole story about how hard we think about I'm sorry, I'm sorry for but let me back a little bit. I know I did say about your evaluation, and I think all that my company is the conversation you have before you have the and it's really about you about something, and then say how those things are and sometimes I want to practice and I try out these ideas and and I can just say, this is what I'm going to do. I'll change this ready to talk about it. Soon as I think all the time saying I'm forgetting to consider or something is and it was very I'm saying how do you consider my life? We all approach something with a whole mix of things. It's not just like a lot of things. And I was thinking like I thought is there anything faith is the other and I think I'm take the one first and then I'll story so I have some of those books closing and hold on to read the book I said books were the book the story first and then the book is like very similar to TV we all think so that's why I story and it's 9:15 sorry I told you story I read things from and nobody knows this part of that thing so I know it was atheist book about great and young atheist love it he tells a story in the and then I heard it on that you are others too other I think other than there and they just different people they're right he told me something said my friend called me and I didn't get to the phone I just but I feel like I got called and they said so I tried to find myself out of that I never find myself out of that trying to find myself out of that feel like he couldn't sound better and all of a sudden everything I heard read like really like all of a sudden I told him see this guy he's just trying to feel the pain or every day and he's trying to write himself out of his nest and he was facing trouble so I think people know that so I found out those kind of things about things then I was talking to people and ordinary people and they're going to TV shows but man that's where it's I want to hear your story what so I try to read those kind of stories together and say doesn't make us think that bad yeah the story's going to have color and never seen it things say maybe when it comes to talking about it I'm going to hear the story first maybe later out the I think about all that you have you follow that anyways it's not you figure out don't so if you're asking like yes the person who's here and whatever you want you're a Christian and friend of yours comes and said said I have or not Christian you know sorry a lot of people yeah so Christian said I have well I would counsel the counselor but say well tell them they're not crazy they're not doing their this probably more common than you realize the Christian life does have those times that we have doubts dealing with somebody unbelievers and that's just the reality of being human living in a fallen world living in a time between times we have the revelation of the cross but still waiting for the second coming so yeah I think doubts probably happen a lot I might tell that person if all their Christians say oh I never doubt I'm just trying to I just say that I think there are pockets with I never doubt I know I think so if it's not just what do I get I would say you can you don't have to be 100% certain and then I would try to say there's all sorts of things like that you live it out 100% and try to my and I go to the pharmacy and I never tested these drugs to make sure they're but I have faith that my doctor really talking about tell me this and that the pharmacy they really can't read out and that they try so I had a very high level of faith in my doctor and how medical process but then I absolutely and there's also things we need to live in like a high level and I think God has revealed such tremendous truths but in that truth in the Bible itself he tells us there are some things God tells so Deuteronomy 9:9 first seek things along the Lord things revealed this is revealed where things have to be yeah or Paul now we see further we're all saying in 2 Corinthians where we are afflicted but not crushed perplexed but not scared there is perplexity there are puzzles and there are times we need to say I don't know why other talking about other Christians people answer all the questions and I just said this all those questions I think that has happened a lot of people Westerners have been told stop asking questions one of the people that I back up over doctors I want to get a doctorate and I for me said I'm researching too because I didn't like being interested in and I knew that the standard in that kind of research was to but in my 30s when I go low I say well I've been doing fine I said no you're doing 40 I just love the process of doing my last but in formal sit down setting recording every word transcribing every word 40 college students in the last 2 years I was really and there's one guy who was told in the church when he was growing up you ask too many questions you just need to believe Jesus or take away your questions well that's what you're listening to and do what you do you have to like I don't need to I'm smart but then he went to and it was and it was one of the questions he only went to make fun of Christians and he asked my questions really nice so he started with questions and he started to meet people who respected questions and at one point in the interview I said one name I'm the ocean Bible yeah that's one of the questions let's do that I thought after you get the question I said to you guys yeah and the guy said the first question was you don't know all that started great something to know something about the but the next guy well I think the story tells us the religion is and there must be something really different between being a person and being a pig and I thought that's pretty good so that's satisfying yeah so the next week said I was raised in a place where they say you need to answer question with this respect question gave me a pretty decent answer oh Christianity is there are answers and that's what I asked a million questions no I didn't I figured if there's an answer that question probably the answer I never just never that's a profound story that it doesn't because at times you posture have Christians you know starting with doubts all the not always kind of for like down of right answer there's a posture that I see far less today there was a time 30 years ago where the posture in the academic world in the apologetics world was we have the answers we can answer all those and the implication was sort of this their questions are stupid but we have sometimes their questions aren't realistic well sometimes they're but yes not always every one people have this question we're not really asking this question they have a moral problem there's something everything but I think something about being like that's not being respectful or irrespectful to do all this apologetics with gentleness and respect and there was a time when it wasn't very gentle it wasn't respect I think there's tremendous gentleness and respect now in the apologetics world I'm not very encouraged about that so I want to think with you a number of different reasons for doubt that both unbelievers and believers may struggle with in their lives and we can think about the model too those Christians want to support their friends but even some of those who himself struggles with doubt Christianity we can get an initial stab at how you're responsible to Christ the one struggling doubt all game is suffering I see more day here, we try to use our world, it's nice in our own homes, that I can't reconcile with God. Yeah, and I think this is very, very common, and whatever help I might be, whatever help I find, don't be surprised if you need more help with this, because other things that I'll be very honest, my struggling is very unique, because the harder things to do with God, and I have to go back to lessons I learned and repeat them and rethink them and wrestle with them and get on my knees and wrestle with God like little Psalms, how long will you let this kind of hard? So I think there is a limited mode of being a believer in the world at this point in God's plan or Savior's. I want to help people surprised by details. I want to say doubt doubts, but I want to dig into them and either for the first time study or remind yourselves from last study, what are some of the best answers that we get about this topic? So it's about the problem of pain and evil. So I read C.S. Lewis's book about pain, or Peter Reed's book, making sense out of something, or Tim Keller's book, like walking with God. These are difficult books to read. You don't read them, you only watch the YouTube videos, you don't answers, it's painful to dig. But I also want to say that there is temptation to walk away from God at these times. Well then, that's walking to the worst place. The living apart from God's answers leads you to another set of answers that are terrible, that are weak, that are no good at all. The atheist, there's a lot of people atheists, and they can't even cause suffering, so they walk away from you. Well, the atheist explanation of suffering has no hope in it, no resources to be a good friend to somebody else suffering. You walk away from any sort of prayer that can give you a sense of hope in the midst of not having a better answer. So with all of its incompleteness, the Christian incomplete answer is a million times better than the skeptic atheist answer. And we look at the ugliness of that in its raw ugliness, okay? Yeah, I still have questions still. There are parts of my chart that go my list, I don't know. But there's a whole bunch of slippers of my chart that help me get through things. A couple of things say that two things at the same time. On one hand, there's overpromise what Christianity will do fix images of this world. You don't have an easy for why all these things happen. You don't have a definitive way to put an end to all this. Because we live in a perfect world. And it also, it reminds us of the graphic as Christians. We are most tempted, more strongly without this area. We're most tempted to think, hey, there's some other way of thinking makes it easier. You're kind of saying that's a fool's errand. Yeah, and you don't have to dig too far to find some stories of skeptics and atheists and what they said about death and how they faced their own death. And it's pretty empty. And someone try to joke about it, crack jokes, and you go, it's not really that funny. And then also look at people who have healed. It's wrong with Christianity. Johnny Harrison's not as many. You need to look at why would one who's going to live there and martyr for 50 years still say, I say praise to Jesus. There are lots of people like that. And I think there's a aside in the chapter about suffering in this new question faith. Look at why is it that so many African Americans have become Christians and became Christians at times when they were enslaved by white people who claimed to be Christians. Why in the world would they latch onto the religion of their slave owners? There must be something about that faith that is strong and solid and good, apart from people claiming Christians are the worst hypocrites. Frederick Douglass said some really, really beautiful things about Christian faith. It's like being a Christian. But he was a slave master who beat him every day, except on Sunday, because that's enough. And yet, when he heard the gospel preached, he found those kinds of stories need to grab us and say, wait a minute, okay, I got doubts, I've seen evil and stuff. Nobody's ever beat me, so me claiming that they're doing Christian. So I can learn something from Frederick Douglass and other people and compare the very, very disparate stories of belief and unbelief. That's because I mentioned another reason I'm struggling with doubt. How do you want to say struggling doubt as a Christian? We often stories of Christians. Those supposed to have a religion true in God. But I mean, just selfish, just cruel, just deceptive, and else. So how can we believe in Christianity is how Christian faith? Yeah, that's very true. I've been trying to people that I don't value that people are. I'm not saying I can do this, I will try to talk about it. You have to know that, but can't minimize that. We somehow want to make a distinction between those very bad displays of the gospel and Jesus. I hope those lines. I hope someone asks this question. What I want to say is, yeah, that's terrible. Like, Jesus is following. Whatever first book you read is like I like chapter. If Jesus is so great, why is it church? And I sell that with the church. It's like the church chapter. And it's 70 years long. Actually, Christians will walk away from faith. Years, family parents. They say, you know, I grew up in church and I've seen hypocrisy and many questions around fault. And I think it's a terrible thing. So I think the starting point is, yeah, I understand that. I think if I would see some of that stuff, I might also walk away. But like the back, I look at Jesus. I look at their people. I follow them. We're not here to be broken. They did it. But there's Christians doing these things. So I guess I'm getting the landscape as full as possible. So I think some Christians want to get off the out. So those are some podcasts. At some point, we want to say, well, I'm not sure. We are. I mean, there's a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians. Wrong way. I'm not Christian. Yeah, they're doubts. No, that's true. And it is my Christians. You know, we can. I think the process. You guys want to claim to God. You want to claim that you have this code, God. That should make better Christians. Yeah, there is an outrage in that. That is okay. There is an outrage. I'm not that. And one point is that the fact that this bothers us is a point of the fact that there is such a thing as right and wrong and sin should serve us. Yeah. So we don't minimize any of that. And you want to move on. Because another one answers God for us to be the person who says all the different religions exist in the world. And if God is real, then why isn't He one universally or more universally accepted and recognized? And then how can we totally sure that Christianity have all religions is actually right? Yeah. Well, we would say look at all the religions of the world. I would say yeah, that's okay. No, but you're not afraid of that challenge. Well, I'm afraid of people who live on the surface, and on the surface, you're not really seeing what's really the hard thing. So I think it's good to study and learn and to see how there is. And there's a point where I want to say God has revealed Himself, and it's possible for people to miss that or look elsewhere or try to find answers elsewhere. But this is always been a problem. This isn't a problem for any religion. Very well connected to religion. I mean, it's more obvious. But it was a problem in ancient Israel for Jewish people to only worship the true God. And read the prophets, and they have some really, really strong condemnations of worshiping other gods. And that's what religions are. They're worshiping of other gods. So this has always been a narrow problem for believers. God people always been surrounded by people who believe other gods. I think it's a very recent modern thing in the last 100 years or so. They're really worshiping the same God. They just worship Him in different ways. Well, if you really dig in, or if you have a good conversation with a sincere adherent of another religion, you'll find out that they don't worship the same God. But the God Muslim does not believe that Allah is the same God as God in the Bible. They think God wrong. The Bible distorted. If you talk to a Buddhist, we didn't know He's vegan. No, we worship one God and say that Buddha is wrong. Buddhists are the reason to worship God. We talk about any. And so it's sort of people on the outside who look on the surface in ways I think it's and that's all the Christians are worshiping God. They think they're wrong. Doctor in Islam, like Christian, but doctor in Islam, those who are wrong. They think they're worshiping God. That's kind of a secular thing that secular professors of religious studies professors have come up with. But it's not another carrying out that much like these. Just the idea that Christianity forces people into a very small box. The Bible defines us, defines who we are, we should be, how we're supposed to live, who we're supposed to love. All these things are very restrictive on rights. This is like this time you have already stated. You should like who am I? Who I get to be myself. Christianity is so restrictive. How would you respond? Well, I would say I think the task for us Christians preparing how to answer questions. It's sort of a three-stage process of answering. So the first stage is I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. So if I hear the question, I ask more questions. I want to make sure that I'm really answering the question versus asking. Secondly, I want to think, okay, so what's the answer? What does the Bible say? Then there's the third, and it's the one that I think people more knows. Okay, what do I say? I don't just start with, well, your Bible says there. God said, I believe that sentence. I mean, that may be theologically right and philosophically correct, but it didn't really help the person that we're talking to understand or move from error to truth. And so there's a lot of wisdom that we think we need to do our homework. What does the Bible teach about that? But then there's where do I start? So I'm not going to argue. If I'm persuaded, I'm like, yeah, I might help someone understand something. I started this sometimes. There's more than just intellectual understanding needs to be addressed in these details. So we need to study the methodology of Jesus answering questions. He didn't always answer, or he didn't get it right away. That's the tactics. The guy comes to Jesus, what does I do in your life? Right? It's a pretty straightforward question. Okay, what's the answer? Well, Jesus should have said, but what some of us would have said in that situation was, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and receive Him as Savior Lord. And we say, or we would say, when the question implies that you're trying to work your way in heaven, you'll work to the Lord by the works of the law. We say that's the theology, and that's right, and that's true, and eventually that guy needs to hear. But what did Jesus say? Jesus said, why do you call me good? And why do you call me good? Then he knows what he wants to get the guy at the root of the question. If I just know what to do, I probably already done it. But then he does quote me. Jesus is thinking, you still haven't gotten to realizing how impossible it is for you to save yourself. So I'm going to have to be very uncomfortable by saying something that will show you, oh, I don't do that. We go back to the way I say it. So there's what's the question being asked? What's the answer? What do I say? So your question, is Christianity narrow and confining? It doesn't tell me I can't just. And by the way, I think when I ask the question, I think a lot of Jesus is about sex. It's telling me I can't sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. Right? So it's narrow. Yes, that's the answer. But you just quote that. You quote one verse. Well, God is one man, one life. You didn't give them that. You didn't connect with them. So we need to do the brainstorming of what I say. And so what I say is, well, we need some limits. Should there be some limitation? I'm a married man. I've been married faithful to one woman. If I said to my wife, hey, I want to go with the other people, I'm terribly hard to her. I'm hurting her deeply. Violating things that I can't commit before God. I said, I'm faithful to God. I'm setting an example for my children. I'm living ways that are God. Should there be some limits? I want her to go. Should there be some limits? Okay, how do we start with God? Why can't do this? God does set limits. He constantly knows what the best works. And these are unlimited best. That's a very modern secular view. It came on fairly recently. As people how to do it. Yeah, but they don't know how to do it. But now some limits about what we say. And what I'm trying to say is in the third category we say, we need to make it up before we bring them up. Make it very comfortable. I think that's really my I want to get them to be uncomfortable about money. Really that way that really at some point you say, I love Sam Albright, why does God care? And he just turns it on its head, very first chapter. all those things are pointing. They're not end themselves. They're not there. They're just pointing us in the direction we should go. So he put in his sermon in 40, he said, quotes from music, if we fly the beauty of looking, will betray us if we trust in it. It was not looking through them and looking for them was longing. These things, beauty, memory of our past, are good images of what we were designed. But if they aren't taken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb items, breaking parts of everything. So they're not things of, they are the descendant of flower we have found, echo of tune we have not heard, news of country we have never yet. I just love that quote. And that insight, that if you trust me, that way you put it, breaks the heart of it. You find a person that, this is my perfect home, get away from it. You found these music that just does for you. These music are going to, and that's how you do it. You go to a place, I met God in this place, and then I went back and but you know those are just pointers to the God who created it. He said, well, comes spring water from the distance, flow flowing, that way first. Thank you so much for today too. I got to the rest of these, the beginning, I'm pointing to that spring water, thanks. That was training on question about faith. For more church book crossway, question faith, indirect journeys of belief, through rains of doubt. Paper for the for the crossway, by crossway, subscribe to the podcast, Spotify, or your podcast. You enjoy this episode, share it with a friend, and even with you. Crossway is not a popular industry that is solely for the purpose of building a true power, business today, crossway power. When it comes to our faith, we all have questions. Questions about the Bible, questions about the church, questions about our sin, and questions about our suffering. But sometimes those questions can get so big, so substantial, so disconcerting, that we start to wonder, do I really believe what I say I believe? My guest today is Randy Newman, and he spent years listening to stories of Christians who struggle with various questions about faith. But rather than these questions as roadblocks to faith, Randy comes to them as a natural twist and turns that help lead our lives as Christians. Twists and turns that lead us to deeper trust and confidence in our Heavenly Father. Randy Newman serves as a senior fellow for All Evangelism at the C.S. Lewis Institute. He's author of several books, including News Crossway, Questioning Faith, Indirect Journeys of Belief, Rains of Doubt. Let's get started. Well, Randy, thanks so much for joining me today on the podcast. Great to be with you. Thanks so much. So Christians, they all know it is a struggle with doubt in their personal lives. Lots of different kinds of doubts. We all have things. And it's really hard to know how to talk about how to do that doubt as believers. So I want to start off today answering questions. If you're sitting down with a Christian right now, I'm sitting down, we have a talking hand, and that person is struggling with doubt, and that scares me. What's the first thing that you say to them? Well, I think the first thing I might say is that I also struggle with doubt. I want them to know that they're not alone, and I really want to choose that line. And I think doubt may be more common than most people think. So I want to soften the tension there. I think also when I'm trying to express that even really strong, solid, mature believers have times of doubt. And I think that there's an image of the mature Christian who he or she is that they never have doubts. And I don't think that that's realistic for most people. I can't have no doubts. I know where mine goes, but I doubt that they're going through. I doubt they're with all their struggles. But that's the point. I think the teaching of the New Testament has places in it that imply there will be times of doubt and struggle and frustration. And so it's not a question of how do I get rid of this. It's like, how do I get rid of it? But it's like, how do I dig into it and work through it and live with it rather than watch it. So that's the starting point, I think, of dealing with doubt. Really about the book is the way that you approach these parties of spiritual journeys. Where you find where you think like doubt, not very fascinating. It's always a simple answer that we're looking for. It's all about using the book. See, that's your twists and turns more than a fraction. My own stories are I want to teach you some of my story. The parties twists and turns about doubt. Look, first, I heard a lot of stories of people's lives about faith, and for a while, a lot of them fit in a very short linear fashion. When I was this, I believe this, then I learned this, then I found this, then I straight line. Very simple. Yes, I come from a Jewish background, and the raised in a Jewish background, the only thing to do with Jews. When I was growing up, the time Jesus was mentioned was attached to those people who are already there anti-Semites, the people who were Germany was Christian nation, but they didn't know about it. So what do I do with it? So for a long time, I had Christian friends who would say things like, "No, I don't do that." And yet at the same time, there was this attraction of like, why is it that these people they seem to know God in a personal way, talking about it, they pray about it, they pray in English, and so there was sort of this, no, I'm not going to I'm drawing this back and forth kind of thing. And I began to tell you about how I know this from experience with my son, and I learned what switch backs were. And switch backs make it possible for me to get out, to go back and forth, people twice, so I can't get what switch back is. It's this back and forth, switch back, with a line straight up and rail up. Average tail, but switch back. I think that's more the image of how people say like I need some level of sense. I like regular, and the bigger rest. I know my own story is I used to be a friend church about me. That got me thinking. Then I'll probably for a year and a half I think about God, Jesus, right? About beer and music and girls. And every Saturday night I went to party. Every Saturday night I went to music. Listen to some great music. I was looking at something. Friday night I was looking at Saturday I was looking at transcendence. And open transcendence. But that was my freshman year. And it was my sophomore year until a friend of mine died. So we tried and then I had to wait a minute. Music kind of like this. Beer is what I gotta find something. And that's when I started getting into Christianity. I was after a lot of Testament. But again, it was back and forth in the switch back kind of thing. Then I got to the point of the thing. You turn around and look at it. Oh, switch back again. 3 or 4 years. Yeah, you get those backs. I was searching for something. I was going next. Right, so after your first, and that's all your friends. So sure, yeah, so there's some truths of Christian life that doesn't here. But for a lot of it's exactly the opposite of what you learned about. So and then I was seeing that Jesus was good. That's it. And so it's not kidding. Completely. But the Bible is just playing it behind the flesh. Crazy. And so the first idea is the first thing. A lot of people believe this. Right? So yes, it is true. There's a lot of people. It's time to sit in it. Because the essence of Christianity is that you've been wrong about a whole lot of stuff. A lot of reasons. About sin, about Jesus, about the Bible. So realizing all this stuff is rebalance. And then as you say, there's a whole lot of like this. You know what? It's different. It's better. Yeah. But that takes some time. It's not just let's translate information from the book. You know, right there. That's done. And now, it's not. And I think it's a shot of theology. And no, it's one of the things about how these stories. Kind of think about those stories. Think about how the market faith and sharing faith. The best thing about stories have with how you write the stories or how they but that goes back a little bit. I know I've said about faith. There's about your faith. And I think all that about the faith. There's things we have before we have the things we have. There's really things about you about so many things. And then say how those things are reading. And sometimes I watch back to what and I try out these ideas as well. And I can transfer some of the right by reading. Chances I think about that all considering faith. You know, I'm trying to do this sin or the faith. And it's very really it's saying okay, so like we all know something faith. We don't know it's not faith. I don't think a lot. And I'm thinking like I don't think there's anything faith. I need to mistake the first. And then that's really so it's something those are great ideas. And look at the off what it has to remind yourselves when you last study, what are some of the best answers that have been given about this problem? So it's about the problem of pain. So I read C.S. Lewis's book about pain, or Peter Reed's book, Making Sense Out of Suffering, or Tim Keller's book, like Walking with God. These are difficult books. You want to read them, watch the YouTube video, the answers. It's painful to dig in. But I also want to say that there's a temptation to walk from God in these things. Well, then that's walking to the worst place. The living apart from God's answers leads you to other sets that are weak, that are no help at all. The atheist, there's a lot of atheists, and the atheists are suffering, so they walk away from Christianity. Well, the atheist explanation of suffering has no hope in it whatsoever. No resources to be a good friend when somebody else is suffering. You walk away from the resource of prayer that can give you a sense of hope in the midst of not having an answer. So with all of its incompleteness, the Christian incomplete answer is a million times better than the skeptic atheist answer. And we look at the ugliness of that in its raw ugliness and say, okay, I'm going to cling to the Christian one because yeah, I still have questions. There are parts of my chart. I go by my list. There's a picture of the I don't know. don't have an easy answer for why all these things happen. You don't have a definitive way that could end all this. Because we live in a broken world. And it also, it reminds the graphs of Christians being one of the most active, more strongly doubting area. We're most active in there's some other way of thinking makes it easier. You're going to think that's not fools here. Yeah, and you don't have to dig too far to find some stories of skeptics and atheists and what they said about death and how they face their own death. And it's pretty empty. And so try to joke about it, crack jokes, and you go, that's not really fun. And then it's also really good some people who have really, really who are strong Christians and they say, here's why John Harris not as many, right? You know, look at it. Why would one who's in a wheelchair and hard for 50 years still say, I say praise to Jesus? There are lots of people. And I mentioned this little aside in chapter 1 in this book. Look at why is it that so many African Americans have become Christians and became Christians at a time when they were enslaved by white people who claimed Christians? Why in the world would they latch onto the religion of their slave people? There must be something about that faith that is strong and solid and good, apart from people claiming Christians who are Christians. Frederick Douglass said some really, really beautiful things about Christians. I decided to like it. But it's just like every day. Except on Sunday, that's nonsense, hypocrisy, and yet when you heard the gospel preached, those kinds of stories grab us and say, wait a minute, okay, I got I see you. Go back to reading the exhibit. So I kind of like Frederick Douglass and other people and compare very, very disparate stories. That's the reason I'm struggling with doubt. So how do you find struggling with doubt because of hypocrisy of Christians? We often hear stories of Christians, those who supposedly have a relationship with the true and living God, of being just as selfish, just as cruel, just as deceptive as anyone else. So how can I believe that Christianity is true and this is how Christians behave? Yeah, it's very absurd. I wouldn't try to minimize it. People do that. I don't know if people are. I'm not small. Yeah, I think it's fine. I would try to talk about it. That's the norm. That's what most Christians are like, but you can't minimize it too much. We somehow want to make a distinction between those very bad displays of the gospel and Jesus. We want to have I hope someone asks this question, and what I want to say is, yeah, that's really terrible. Right? I still think Jesus is followed, but I don't know if it's I Jesus is so big, right? And I have some years now. But it's something you talk about. So I think the starting point is, yeah, I can understand that. If I would see some of that stuff, I might also but like the back, I think Jesus, I got 30 half hour. We're not they did, but so I guess like the landscape is full of hospitals. So I think it's really get taken out of the picture. Now, so these so much people are doing anything, and I don't care. Like somewhere else, I don't know if I've so let's just talk about these. At some point, we want to say, well, I'm not no, that's true. It's my version. You can have a hospital. You have to go over God. I should be careful. There's how we can that. There's how. The fact that this body is one this is right and wrong and sin should be certain. So we don't like because no one cares about capacity. That person says all things. And God has the only one university or university in Christ. And it's not sure that all of it is exactly right. Yeah, well, we could say look at all the world. I would say yeah, that's yeah. No, but I'm afraid of that challenge. Well, I'm afraid of people only on the surface, and on the surface, you're not really seeing what's really hard. So I think it's good to study and learn and to see how they're doing. And there's a point where I'm going to say God has to be himself, and it's possible for people to miss that or look elsewhere. Right? But this is always about this is just about our DNA. So very that's more obvious. So there's a problem in Asian people for people to only worship God, and it's really strong foundation of worshiping other gods, and that's what religions are. They worship other gods. So this has always been a narrow problem for God. Only worship by people other gods. I think it's a very recent part of the last 100 years. They're really worshiping the same God. They just worship Him in different ways. Well, if you really dig in, we're going to have a good conversation with a sincere and here another religion. You'll find out that they don't worship the same God. The Calvinist does not believe that Allah is the same God as God. Like this one. Buddhism knows one God is the same. So we sort of go outside to look at certain ways I can use it. In fact, people look at Christians worship God. Things that are wrong. Hypocrisy, lots of different with hypocrisy. Those wrong. They think they're worshiping the God. That's kind of a secular thing that secular professors of religious studies classes have fun with. They don't have much substance. Another very doubtful question is just the idea of Christianity versus being into a very small box. The Bible defines us as we are usually how to live, rules of love, all these things very specifically on everything. It's just like other things. You know, am I getting something? Christianity is so certain. Well, I can say the camera for us is preparing audience questions as sort of free stage questions and answers. So the first stage is when I try to answer the question. So if I hear the question, I ask more questions. I want to make sure that really answering the question is answered. Secondly, I want to think, okay, what's the answer? What does the Bible say? Then the third is when I can give more than what I say. I don't just start with here's the Bible there. God said I do that. And that may be theologically right and philosophically right. But it really helps us to understand or move from error to truth. And so there's a lot of wisdom in that thing. We need to know what the Bible. Then there's the Bible. So so we need to study the methodology of Jesus answering questions. He didn't always answer, or he didn't answer the right way. That's actually the guy who was what I do in life. All right, it's a pretty straightforward question. What's the answer? Well, Jesus should have said. But some of us would have said in that situation was believe in Christ and receive Him as Savior Lord. And we say, what do we say? When your question implies that you're trying to work your way to heaven, works of the law, and we say that's the theology, and that's right, and that's true, and eventually that's what I needed to hear. But what did Jesus say? Jesus said, why do you call me good? And why do you call me good? And he wants to get the guy who question. If I didn't know what to do, I probably already done it. But then Jesus does quote me. What do I say? All these things that's how you Jesus is thinking, you still haven't gotten to the point of realizing how impossible it is for you to save yourself. So I'm going to have to make you very uncomfortable by saying something that will show you, oh, I don't want to do that. So what do I say? So there's the question being asked. What's the answer? And how, what do I say? So with your question, is Christianity narrow and defined? Does it tell me I can't just? And by the way, I think when someone asks that question, I think a lot of cases it's about sex. It's telling me I can't sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. Right? Right? So what's the middle line? Well, again, it's about narrow and yes, that's the answer. But if you just quote that, you just quote a book well, God is one and one life there. You didn't really help us. You didn't need to interact. You didn't connect with them in gentleness and respect. So we need to do the brainstorming of what I say. And so what I want to say is, well, don't we need some limits? Should there be some limitation? I'm a married man. I've been myself faithful to one woman. If I said to my wife, hey, I think this is too narrow. I want to go do things with other people. I'm doing terrible harm to her. I'm hurting her deeply. I'm violating things that I made commitments before God. I said I would be faithful to them. I'm setting examples for my children and their grandchildren about how to live ways that are destructive for them. Shouldn't there be some limits? And I want the person to go, yeah, there should be some limits. Okay, how do we figure out what the limits are? And what I want to get to is God does set limits because He's a loving God. He knows what is best for us, and we think unlimited is best. Well, that's a very modern secular view. It just came along fairly recently. As people have been around for a while, yeah, but so now it's celebrating. Well, there should be some limits about what we say. And what I'm trying to say is, in this third category, we say we need to make people uncomfortable before we bring them comfort to the gospel. And they feel very comfortable. I expect them to live, by the way. I want to get them to be uncomfortable about really that way. That's really good for you. At some point when you say, I love Sam Albright, why does God care for me? And he just turns on his head, very first chapter, why do you care for me? And what do you do? It's a very big deal. It's a very big difference. And it's a very big difference. That's what it is. God. And you just turn the question around, want to help people. Here, I want to help you think about this. I think our culture that likes slogans, things no more than 100 characters. And sometimes it's a lot of content. It's my question. And you're like, wrestling with me, wrestling with me, about questions every day. I try to talk about it. And you do this really wonderful Jesus question every day. What can you recap over first? And then unpack what it was being like that. Insert thing. And this has a role in my life. It's one of those concepts that these other categories. I think someday I'm going to hear these music that my mind is connected to the transcendent God and everything. Some of these things, others, but then these things and so on. So Lewis said that all those things are pointers. They're not in itself. They're not there. They're just pointers to the direction. So in his sermon, we have already mentioned books of music. It's not that we will betray us if we trust in them. It was not. They don't think through them. And what came through them is all these things. Many of our past are good images of what we really. But if they want to stay for things else, they turn into dumb items, breaking the hearts of everyone. But they're not the things else. They are the descendants of we have not found. Echo to we have not heard. News from country. I just love that quote. And that insight, that if you trust with that, we trust makes the hearts of everyone. You found these music that just doesn't work. And as I was listening to his last word, you go to a place behind that God in this place, and then back in. But you really listen to God created is what He said. Well, comes from water from within, and just keeps overflowing. And then when you first, great things like that day too. Like, I'll trust these. The God in me. Trust with. And once you trust with water, that's what thanks. More